Today, I want to talk about the 80-20 rule. You ever heard of it? No? Yes? Maybe so? Well, I'm going to dive into what in the world that is. So strap in and get ready for episode 108. Let's go!
I've always been that skinny guy.
Why can't I gain muscle mass?
What do I do in the gym?
They said I'd always be skinny.
This is your complete source for how to gain lean muscle and break out of your skinny body. From nutrition to getting the most out of your workouts and everything in between. We know just how frustrating gaining muscle mass can be, but don't worry, we've got you covered. You're listening to the Bones to Bulk podcast. Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brian Parody. I will be your host today, and I'm excited about today's topic. But before we jump into that, if you've not checked out our Bones to Bulk YouTube channel, go on over there, hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and we have a plethora of videos on there. A lot of different exercises, talking a lot about different things from macronutrients to building your shoulders to having the motivation to stick with your workouts. Like, I have a ton of videos on there, and they often coincide with what I'm talking about in the podcast and sometimes even dive further into that. So head on over to YouTube, search Bones to Bulk, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and I think you'll get a lot of great information out of those videos. With that being said, let's dive into today's episode. So the 80-20 rule. This basically says that for 80% of the time, you're on point with your nutrition, you're on point with your workouts, and then 20% of the time, you can kind of take it easy a little bit. And is this a good approach? Is this a good way to go about doing this? What are my thoughts on it? How does it work? And all that, yeah. So, number one, first off, typically the 80-20 rule, while it can apply to workouts, typically it's talking about your food in particular. That means basically 80% of the time your diet's going to be on point. And then 20%, you can kind of cheat a little bit, right? And this is going to vary for everybody. First off, if you're just getting started and you're, building those healthy habits, I suggest as much as possible, stick with the healthy food and with building those habits. And then once you kind of hit a stride where you feel like you're pretty on point with your nutrition, feel like you're pretty on point with your diet and what you're eating and what you're not eating, then you might be able to start thinking about, okay, what is feasible for me to eat that's not good for me? What's a feasible amount? Because I'm going to be real with you. I have cheat meals. Like, there's things I crave. There's meals that I really enjoy that are terrible for me. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think it's good to enjoy ourselves sometimes. But at the same time, just like I always talk about, it's all about long-lasting health and providing my body with what it needs. So finding that balance sometimes can be really hard, hence the 80-20 rule and why that plays an effective role sometimes. Because when we think about it, there's roughly 21 meals in a week if you're eating 3 meals a day. Now, that's not including all your snacks and everything else. So 21 meals, 20% of that would be a little over 4 meals. So that's saying 4 meals you're going to not eat the best. Now, I would not recommend having 4 cheat meals in a week, but maybe you have a cheat meal and a dessert one day. Then maybe another night you have some drinks and a dessert. Nothing wrong with that. It's not enough that's going to completely screw you over on your goals or anything like that. Rather than picking like 4 meals and then, 20% of your snacks, do 20% overall and just do 4 total. So 2 snacks, 2 meals. Now, this doesn't mean that your meal is a 6-hour event that you just keep eating and eating and eating. I'm talking about like one meal that you enjoy. You don't have to go absolutely crazy and order, 2 pizzas and an order of wings just for you for that meal. Like, let's be a little bit realistic here. But yeah, have some pizza, have a few wings. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Have a good dessert afterwards. The mindset here is that we have to be perfect all the time, typically when we get started. And if you're able to do that, then by all means, go for it. But for me and for most of the people I know, it's just not possible. It's pretty unrealistic because whether we're at an event, maybe it's a get together and we're at a restaurant and there's just not any healthy options, or maybe it's been a long week and we're just craving something. I don't know what it is about long weeks that make you crave an unhealthy meal, at least for me. Like, I'm that way. If I've had a long week, I
want something sweet for dessert, usually cookies or ice cream, and I want some rum. Like that's, I don't know why, what it is about having a time. Maybe it's all mental. It probably is. Just like, oh, I had a hard week, I deserve something. That's probably what it is. But really just kind of break down, okay, how did I do this week? And you've got to evaluate it on your week as well. You can't just say, regardless of how maybe you already had a couple cheat meals during the week. That doesn't mean you get to have more cheat meals on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like if you were on point throughout the week, then yeah. But if you maybe had a rough week and you weren't eating right and you ate out several times, like then don't follow the 80-20 then, because you've already eaten 20 or maybe over 20% unhealthy. So make sure like you're staying on track for the rest of the week. And this isn't a one size fits all, because there isn't a one size fits all. We all are a little bit different. We all have different needs and different ticks and tweaks. And like we have to evaluate where we are and who we are and what we can handle. Maybe having 2 cheat meals and 2 cheat snacks a week sets you off course. And then you have another one and another one. Maybe that's just too much for you. Maybe you need to knock it down to 90-10 and only have 1 cheat meal and 1 cheat snack. Like find what works for you. You know your body and you know your mental state better than anyone. And so listen to what it's telling you. If you find that you have a cheat meal and then the next 3 days you kind of slip into cheating, then maybe you need to stay away from the cheat meals for right now. But if you're able to have a cheat meal, have a cheat dessert, and then jump right back into the healthy eating the next morning with no problem, then there's nothing wrong with that. Do that. Like enjoy the meal. Don't stress over the calories or the fat in it or whatever. Like enjoy it. Genuinely enjoy it. If you're working your ass off, you're eating right, and you're working out, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a good meal. I truly believe that. So you might be saying, well, shoot, all I eat is junk. All I eat is cheat meals. How do I freaking start eating right? Slow steps. You have years of buildup of habits. However old you are, that's how many years you have of bad habits. So why are you expecting to undo all those bad habits in a month or 60 days? Or even a year? It's going to take time. It will. Like even with me, things take time. They've reoccurred. For instance, I'm talking way back in the day, like 10 plus years ago, I would sit down and eat a half gallon of ice cream in one sitting. Like not even kidding. And for the longest time in the last, 3-4 years, I haven't really cared for ice cream that much. Then all of a sudden, the last couple months, guess what? I've been craving ice cream all the time. I've had it a couple times and I'm just like, why all of a sudden is this coming back? Like, where is this coming from? Like, just our bodies are weird. They are. And so just don't expect to nail everything all the time and start small. Like if you're kind of on the ground level and you're trying to figure out how to eat better, pick one thing to give up. Maybe it's cookies, ice cream, soda, like whatever it is. Pick one thing and just focus on that for the week. Focus on not having that item at all and replace it with something healthy. So maybe it's soda, get rid of it, replace it with water. Then after a week or two, you'll hit a stride and be like, wow, I haven't had soda for 2 weeks. That's awesome. And then it'll give you encouragement and motivation to say, let's see what else I can give up. And you pick something else and you get rid of it as well. Maybe it's fast food. Maybe instead of running through the fast food, you're making your own breakfasts. And you get in a stride with that and do that for a few weeks and get comfortable with that. Then you add something else. It's this slow stair-step progression. You're building a foundation. You're building a platform that you can put everything else on top of. So don't rush it. Don't dive in head first and give up everything, because that typically leads to failure and then you go back to square one. Start small, slowly build on that. That's how success is gained. Like it's not the overnight success story. It's the hours and hours of practice that were put in when nobody saw it. It's the little things behind the scenes that truly add up and matter. So regardless of what you're struggling with, what maybe things you want to consume that aren't the greatest, what things you want to consume that aren't the greatest, like you can overcome anything that you set your mind to. You've got this.